2 people that they're concerned about. Today I'm going to be taking you guys on a holiday shift. Today is July 4th and I'm doing a night shift admitting from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. So usually my holiday shifts go pretty well. I'm going to knock on wood and hope for the best. And today I'm going to be going in, I'm going to be admitting through the emergency department with the emergency medicine doctor. I'm going to be the admitting hospitalist. And today I'm feeling a little bit meh. I try to take a little bit of a nap beforehand for like 30 minutes to an hour, because if I don't, then around like 1, 2, 3 in the morning, I start hitting a little bit of a wall and it's hard for me to stay awake. So I try to get that hour to have a little bit of a reserve so I don't feel as tired around that time. But anyways, I have about 20 minutes before my shift starts. It takes about 14, 15 minutes to get there. So I'm going to take you guys along and see how the night goes. Driving around the city right now and it is like a ghost town right now. The San Francisco Bridge is supposed to be doing like a fireworks show. However, it's really foggy right now, so I'm not really sure if they're even gonna really see anything. So that really sucks for them if it's gonna be just straight clouds. But hopefully from my hospital where I'm gonna be doing admitting, I can like step out and see the fireworks a little bit. When I was in residency and I was doing night shift, and actually thinking about it, I was on night shift a lot when I was in residency during the 4th of July. We just went to the roof of the hospital and were able to see the fireworks from every single angle, from like the Bay Bridge, we saw like in Oakland. It was really nice. So being able to like see all that from the top of the hospital was like a nice little routine and a nice little thing that we did overnight with all the residents. But hopefully I can step out a little bit if it's not too crazy tonight. But if not, I guess I'll hear them all night. It's kind of the same with like Nigerian weddings. It's like this uncle's aunt. Yeah. Yeah, it's like it was to start like infighting and bickering with the family. It's just like, I just want to have my wedding and keep it calm. How was your shift?
It wasn't, honestly, today was great. Yesterday was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Today's been slow and steady.
Mm-hmm.
There is one in the ED. They had called me at 8:40, but I still don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Her workup is all, she has like minor effusions, came in with low O2 saturations, but no shortness of breath.
Mm-hmm.
They did try removing pulse ox, but she drops down to 88%.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like fluid as well as pneumonia.
Well, have a good night. Are you gonna go watch the fireworks anywhere, or are you just gonna chill?
I'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so the swing doctor actually just finished giving me sign outs on the patients that they already admitted, as well as the patients that are already on the floor and in the ICU. Usually in that sign out process, they give me a little bit of a heads up of the patients that they already admitted to see if there's a little bit of things to follow up on. And then if there's stuff going on in the ICU, they definitely have to let me know what's going on there because they're a little bit more critical. So they only told me about 2 people that they're concerned about, and then looking at the emergency emergency department right now. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in there. 2 of them are flagged for discharge already, and then 1 of them is being flagged for transfer to a higher level of care, so a different hospital, and then 2 of them are still being worked up. I usually like to do my workflow as coming in, getting sign outs, looking at whoever's in the emergency department and just going down there immediately and just admitting anybody that needs to be admitted. And then I usually go show face in the ICU and let them know, like, hey, I'm here. If there's anything else that's going on or anything that you need, then let me know. So that's usually like my workflow, and then I just kind of wait throughout the whole night for the emergency department to reach out to me to admit people. And so far, the swing doctor had a good shift, which hopefully that carries on over to me. I'm feeling pretty good right now. I wasn't feeling so great earlier, but right now I'm fully fed, I'm hydrated. I brought my water this time because every time I come onto my shifts, I always forget my water and just bring Gatorade and something else. But I'm trying to be better about drinking water because I've been kind of slacking on that lately. Usually I bring like a whole gallon and just work my way through that throughout the day, but I've been kind of slacking on my water intake, but that's usually how things work for me overnight. Okay, so that is 1 admission down. There's a nice little game that I like to do for myself to kind of keep myself entertained, because being on night shift, oftentimes it's lonely and I just like to keep myself entertained. So one of the things that I like to do is to see how fast I can work up a patient, go see them, admit them, and drop an H&P. So I usually do that just to kind of keep myself entertained. So I'm keeping the timer running. I think the fastest I have admitted someone as well as dropped an H&P has been like, I think 5 minutes, and usually it's like that for bread and butter cases. And whenever we say bread and butter cases, those are just really, really easy cases, like heart failure exacerbation, COPD exacerbations, DKA, all of the things that basic internists should know. So we'll see how fast I can actually do this admission workup and drop this H&P.
You say you need your space, then pull me close. I read your silence, louder than most. One day you're warm, the next day you're cold. Got me second guessing what I already know. I give you love, but you ration yours. You open up just to close the door. I stay up late, trying to read your mind. I can't read your mind, but your love got rules that change all the time. Why are you always halfway in? Got me drowning when I know I could swim. If you love me, baby, say it with your chest. Yeah, tired of the maybes, I just want the yes. Don't play me like a song on spin. If you ride for me, then ride to the end. Don't wanna love this paper thin. So why you always halfway in? You hit me up when the nights get slow, but then disappear when the highs get low. I ain't your maybe, tell me what it is, 'cause I'm way too grown to be messing with a love like this. I give you love, but you ration yours. You open up just to close the door. You stay closing doors. I stay up late, trying to reach your mind.
All right, so I just finished admitting that patient, just another bread and butter CHF exacerbation. Took about 11 minutes because I got held up by some messages on the chart chat about some other patients with a heparin drip that's running, but they're 10A levels, which is what we kind of track to see whether or not the heparin is within range or super therapeutic, meaning that the dose is a little bit too high. And what I usually do in situations like that is usually I hold the heparin drip until that level normalizes, because if it goes a little bit too high, then you're more prone for bleeding. So I don't want that to happen, even though this person needs a heparin drip. We gotta weigh the risk and benefits of running it versus not running it. And the risk for a bleed is much higher right now as opposed to starting it. I'm gonna be rechecking an anti-10A and an INR level a little bit later on, maybe like an hour or so. If it's normal, we will restart it. If it's not, then we're gonna have to keep on rechecking it. The CHF exacerbation one was a real easy one. I think thinking about these next couple of days in terms of my fellowship, for those of you guys that are new to the channel, I'm also in a hospice and palliative medicine fellowship in addition to this internal medicine job that I'm doing. And it started last year in July time, so it's been almost a year now, and we're gonna be closing that up pretty soon. So today is the 4th, and we are officially ending the fellowship on the 14th. We do have graduation on the 10th, so it's a little bit weird. We finish the program, have graduation, then we have to go in for another 2 days. So it is what it is. I'm not too mad at it. We are gonna be meeting up with the new fellows next week for dinner. This is kind of like a carrying on of a, I don't know if I'll call it a tradition, just because it started with the last year's class, but we're gonna start a new tradition where the new fellows that come in, the old ones will meet one with the new ones, and then we kind of do a little bit of lunch, meet and greet, and just talk to all of them and just give them the lay of the land of what to expect for the entire year. Now, one of the things that I really appreciated from that meetup with last year's fellows is that they gave us like a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't even think about even asking for, like the best parking spaces, the tips and tricks in terms of the different rotation sites. And there's a lot of other things that I wish I would have known, but I think what I'm gonna do is that I'm working with the current fellows right now in terms of creating like a kind of like a fellowship 101 document. So I am putting like a lot of different tips and tricks that I learned from the previous fellows, as well as new things that I learned with my own experience. And then also putting some other sources like resources for studying, and then other resources for like how to maneuver throughout the different rotations, because you have to really help the next generation of fellows that come in and just keep on building upon the fellowship that you have so you can even develop more and more doctors. So I'm looking forward to meeting up with them. One of them is actually one of my previous friends from residency. He actually is a year below me, so he came to this hospital now for our fellowship. So it's gonna be nice to see him. I think he's gonna be getting married in like a year or so we'll be catching up. But other than that, it is currently 10:15. We are a little over an hour into the shift. I'm feeling good, I have a good wind. The emergency department is looking okay. Looks like there is 7 people in there. I admitted one of them, and then 4 of them are discharging. And I looked at the other 2, and they're pretty young patients, and I don't know, I think it's just like a drug issue, so I don't think they're gonna be admitted. Maybe I have to be screened in the emergency department. But beside all that, I'm just gonna see if there's anything else going on in the rest of the hospital and go from there. And if not, I'm gonna do a little bit of studying for my board exam that I have in November. Every time I have a shift around 4th of July, I'm reminded once again why I never handle or mess around with fireworks, because if you guys walk through and look through the emergency department list of patients coming into the emergency department during 4th of July or even the days after or days before, it's always finger blown off, leg blown off, whole arm blown off. I was working actually in a emergency department. I remember in med school during my third year surgery rotation, I was on a trauma rotation, and the things I saw, I was like, wow, I am never going to try to light my own firework ever. It's so bad. Yeah, because people are just losing fingers and losing legs and just losing a bunch of stuff. That stuff is not to be played with. So definitely be careful out there. The things I'm seeing, don't mess with it. Just look at it from afar because it's not worth it. Okay, so I just finished doing 25 questions for my studying. It is currently 11:04, so we are 2 hours into the shift. I'm trying to get through this current question bank. It's called Pass Machine, and it's really hard for us to kind of figure out what question sources to do. I think that's one of the frustrating aspects of our palliative care fellowship. I've been talking to other fellows in other programs and even people that have passed the boards already, and it's hard to find a good source of questions to practice from. But I heard a lot of good reviews of this current one, so I've been using it for the last couple of days, and I'm officially almost a full week of using it. So it is about 1,271 questions. I've done 150 so far this week. And I wanted to talk about one of the concepts and one of the questions that has come up pretty frequently, not only in my review course that I did a couple of weeks ago for the intensive review for my boards, but also has been coming up a lot during my fellowship, and it is talking about what to do with ICDs at the end of life, which are implantable cardiac defibrillators. Now, the intention of those ICDs is that it gets implanted into your heart to try to defibrillate and shock your heart if you ever have ventricular arrhythmias, which are abnormal heart rhythms that are generated by the bottom half of your heart when you have some sort of issue. Now, usually if you're not in end-of-life circumstances, you want your ICD working so it can shock your heart if your rhythm goes abnormal like that, because if not, then your heart can kind of go out of whack and stop completely and you can die. However, when you have a patient that is getting closer to the end of life, you want to be a little bit more well-informed about what to do with it and how to explain to families what you're going to do with it at the end of life. And that actually ties into the question that it got brought up. And it was asking about a patient who has heart failure, who has an ICD in place that is actively in the process of dying. And the family in the question was asking, what should we do with the ICD? Now, the ICDs can either just come specifically with the defibrillation portion, or it can also come with that as well as the pacemaking option, so a pacemaker as well. Now, usually what we tell families is that at the end of life, we want them to have a comfortable passing and transition to death. And the ICD, when it shocks someone, it is pretty uncomfortable and pretty painful. And as we get closer and closer to the end of life, you can have more of those ventricular arrhythmias naturally. And you don't want that ICD shocking you repeatedly and causing a bunch of pain. So usually what we tell families is that at the end of life, we want to turn it off. Now, in emergency situations, you can put a huge magnet on top of it, which will temporarily deactivate the defibrillation portion of it, not the pacemaker portion, just the shocking spot part specifically. And we do that so it doesn't keep on shocking you over and over again if you're actively dying. However, if you're not actively dying, you can actually call the rep of the actual ICD, and they actually go in there and just manually program it to be turned off, so you don't just keep on getting shocked at the end of life. So usually that's what we would tell families for our patients that have these ICDs. And we also tell them that we don't have to turn off the pacemaker portion, because usually when your heart is starting to get closer and closer to the end of life, the pacemaker option will actually just naturally stop working, and you can't conduct electricity through the heart cells when it's actually dying. So that is something that it doesn't cause any sort of pain, so you don't have to actually go in there and try to turn off the pacemaker. But the ICD defibrillation portion, that's when you definitely have to turn off. Okay, it is almost 5 a.m. We have been going pretty strong on this shift. I've only admitted one, which was the one at the beginning of the vlog, which was around like 9 a.m. So it's been kind of a slow night, which I'm gonna keep on knocking on wood. Like I said before at the beginning of this vlog, whenever there's like holidays, I've noticed that either the day or the day after the holiday or on the actual day, usually there's not a bunch of admissions because people are really trying to avoid the hospital and stay with their family. So I'm just gonna take a quick look at the board again in the emergency department and see what it's looking like. Earlier I checked, I think there was only like 3 people in there and they were getting discharged, and looking at them, it looks like there's 5 now, 2 are getting discharged. One of them is abdominal pain. That might be a potential admission. And then another one is chest pain. So that other one might be a potential admission. I think that chest pain, that one, the only one that I was like, a little so-so on it was because their troponins weren't elevating. And for those of you guys that are not familiar with medical terms, troponins are actually the breakdown products that we actually measure in the blood to see whether or not there's damage happening with the heart. So I think they checked a troponin and it was like negative on that first one. So that one I'm like, I'm not so sure that one's gonna be admitted. So I'm gonna take a quick look. I'm getting a couple of messages through the chart chats, and it looks like they're asking for, oh yeah, the midline. So usually whenever we have patients in the hospital, they can have different types of IVs. You have your normal peripheral IVs, which can go like anywhere on the arm or even in other parts of the body. But sometimes we run into issues where the peripheral IVs are just very, very weak and not as strong and don't stay in for long periods of times. So if we have issues such as we need to give medications in a continuous fashion for long periods of times, we're doing some sort of hemofiltration, we're using medications that need to go through more sustainable lines such as pressors for septic shock or cardiogenic shock, or a lot of other different reasons, then we'll use another form of IV known as midlines or peripherally inserted IVs, which go into the arm and go almost way deeper into your body, closer to the heart. So the midline stops a little bit more proximally, the PICC line goes all the way in. So a lot of times we will have to place that order for those types of IVs if we're having those issues with those other ones. So I just consented a patient earlier because they're getting IV antibiotics and they just spiked IV fevers a little bit earlier in the week. So I can't quite switch them to oral antibiotics right now. So I'm gonna place that consent order, and we have like a company that is specialized and contracted to this hospital that come and places those midlines and those PICC lines. They're like specially trained healthcare professionals to do that. That's like all they do. I thought that was pretty cool. I actually knew this ICU nurse that was actually working at the hospital I was at during residency, and he just went and got fully trained in doing midlines and PICC lines, and that's like all he does, and he's like very highly touted because not too many people are contracted to be able to do that in the hospital that we're at. So that is just where you gotta use your skills to your fullest extent, and you get paid because of that.
When I know I could swim, if you love me, baby, say it with your chest. Yeah, tired of the maybes, I just want the yes. Don't play me like a song on a spin. If you ride for me, then ride to the end. Don't wanna love this paper thin, so why you always halfway in? Halfway in. You hit me up when the nights get slow, but then disappear when the highs get low. I ain't your maybe, tell me what it is, 'cause I'm way too grown to be messing with a love like this. I give you love, but you ration yours. But you ration yours. You open up just to close the door. You stay closing doors. I stay up late.
We're in the final stretch of my shift with about an hour and 50 minutes left. It is 5:10 right now, and we are almost there. We're almost there. We've only had to admit one patient, and I'm feeling pretty good. I didn't really hear too many fireworks going off tonight. I did look in the emergency room, and I did see somebody blew their finger off. Ooh. but I think it was only just the tip of their finger. So thankfully it wasn't like their whole hand. But anyways, I'm just getting a little bit of a walk in. I feel a little bit claustrophobic in the hospital right now, honestly. I'm just gonna take a couple more minutes for myself, go back inside. Usually around this time is when the slew of morning messages come up. You know, the patients are waking up, they're starting to feel symptoms, they want their morning meds. That's just when the morning rush comes in. So I'm just prepared for that to happen, and then get ready for sign outs and let the next morning doctor take over, and I can go home. We end on the 14th we end of the 14th of this month. So yeah, next week, Tuesday, we'll be done.
You finished?
Yep.
Is it palliative?
Yeah, it's only a year.
Oh, it's only 1 year.
Yeah, only 1 year. So we actually have graduation this Friday, and then, yeah, starting the new job September 1st. Yeah, we have our board exams in November 10th. Yeah. It used to be only offered bi-yearly because there wasn't enough fellows every year to do it. But now, ever since like 2 years ago, they've been offering it every year. Yeah. But yeah.
So, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to see
Glad to
you.
hear that you're going to stay around.
Yeah.
Still.
What was that?
Glad to hear that you're going to be here still.
Oh, yeah. Shift is over. Really good shift, not too mad at it. And today is July 4th, so we get holiday pay today, which I am super happy about. I'm gonna be moving apartments in a couple of weeks, and I'm not gonna be working for about 2 months for like a staff position. I'll have a couple of per diem shifts every so often, but I wanna save a lot so I can move into a new apartment and get new apartment accessories. I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm gonna take a little bit of time next week and the following week to kind of scout out to see what type of things I want to move into the new apartment, as well as throw out from the old apartment that I'm living in currently. And then I'm gonna take some time to just gonna go through Amazon, look through a bunch of different websites and see, can I get like a new couch, a new bed, a bunch of stuff so I can just kind of spruce the place up. I didn't really put too much time and thought into designing my current apartment, but now that I'm gonna be moving into a full attending job, I'm gonna be building an office, gonna be making it real home-like, and also I wanna start hosting in the future. I wanna put some time and thought into actually designing it and kind of putting my thought and my personality into the actual unit. So I'm looking forward to that. And then sometime in the future, I do want to get a home and buy a home. I don't want to rent forever, but that's going to be a project for the future. But I'm going to be waiting for the next doctor to be coming in about 20 to 30 minutes, like 6:30 right now. Give sign out, and then I'm gonna head back home and prepare for fellowship the last week. So thank you for watching the video. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Like the video if you haven't, and have a nice day.